What's up, fellas?
How you doing, Matt?
How's it going?
Hey.
Dave, welcome, man. Dr. Dave, I got to tell you, you have the record for the fastest that's ever made us hit record. I'm like, oh shit, we got to hit. We
don't want to miss a thing.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming.
we had a little while ago. We had a doctor that specialized in penile health, and it was running a little like dry. It wasn't really. And
you can get really wonky about penile health.
Well, it's a little taboo. It was a little and because pun intended, he was a little stiff. We didn't make as many jokes as we normally would.
You would hope he was stiff. I mean, come on, stuff all day long.
Or his medicine isn't working, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious.
But right as we're hitting, like, hey, goodbye, everybody. He mentions scrotox, and we're like, why didn't we start with that? You know,
you do know the name of the show, dude.
As the conjunction sounds like, it's Botox in the scrotum.
Yeah, you know, just in case you want your fellas to look a little youthful,
sure, tighten things up.
Like, why not? But we were joking. We're like, you did see the name of our show, right? Like, you kind of like, I mean, you got to know going into this. That's sort of like your A game, man, right? I mean, no. But anyway.
Right.
Dr. Dave Montgomery, thank you so much for coming on, man. I am so looking forward to this chat because there's so much about what you do and espouse that, like, we talk about every single show almost. We definitely eat, sleep, and breathe. Though, like, there's no one ingredient. It's everything or nothing. You know, like, it's like, we're like all in on so many of these things. And I actually have some just general curiosities about cardiology in general. We'll get to that in a minute, but like all in all, I can't wait to dig in. So thanks again.
Yeah. And we're probably going to mention psychedelics, and I'll just say AI as well at some point, because it seems to always arc back towards that. Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Let's dive into it. Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm stoked. Let's jump
in. Dr. Dave, get us to where we're at today. Like, how'd you get here?
Yeah. You know, that's, it's so interesting, guys, because I used to say I don't really have a story. Mm-hmm. And it's bizarre. Everybody's got a story. In all seriousness, everybody's got a story. And then when I just started to say my story is enough, I started telling my story. And they're like, hey, that's a great story. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep telling my story. I was probably 10 years old when I started saying I wanted to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. There's no doctors in my family. My pediatrician was seriously not interested in hearing what I wanted to be in life. I was just like going through the motions. So I don't really know where it came from. And so, sort of people talk about, providence and you were born with it and that's your purpose. And I believe that because I can't explain it any other way. And around 11, going into 12, I got an anatomy physiology book from one of my best friend's mom who had just finished an LPN course. And I would just devour this stuff. I'm 12 years old by the time I really get into it. And I play ball. I did all the normal stuff that every other kid would do. But then I would sneak downstairs and read all the stuff. And not only that, I would want to teach it to my sisters. They were the only willing. They were just kind of sitting there,
Yeah. What the hell is wrong with Dave?
So, audience, yeah.
Right, exactly. No, not captive. Hey, get out of here. Yeah. I wish they were captive. But later on, I did, have some friends who were just saying, what do you know? They started calling me doc literally before high school because that's just what I was doing. And a couple of defining points, I think, along the way were really critical. And my father died when I was 13, just as I was starting high school from a massive heart attack. Now,
wow.
You got to know at 13, you're not evolved enough to be putting this together and I'm going to be a cardiologist and learn what causes heart attacks. But at the end of the day, that's really what the passion turned into. So I didn't know that whatever that providence was, that divine passion that was put in me was going to turn into that. And that part was a defining moment in my development as a professional, but it was.
Yeah, I'm not a pastor,
and then some other really key points in there. I'm not a
pastor, prophet, or a psychiatrist, but you don't need to be any of those things to piece this enigma together, right?
It was more than a gentle nudge.
Right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
A kick in the ass going, hey, buddy, that way. Yeah.
Right. But at 13, you're like, meh, you barely can put it together, right?
Sure.
And then I had some really fantastic opportunities with amazing physicians and scientists who sort of weaved my way into the pathway that I'm in now, which is I actually went and did a full PhD in physiology and biophysics at the University of Illinois before going to medical school.
Oh, wow.
And there, while I am not a research scientist currently, I use what I learned every single day in my clinic, in what I'm teaching. What was developing back then was a teacher and a healer. And it took me a really long time to embrace that, because who goes around saying, "Oh, I'm a healer," and you're actually taught to not say stuff like that because it sounds too big with a capital B.
Yeah.
And if you don't embrace your station, the station that you're here to fill, you may as well just give it to stop. What are you here for? And it took me a really long time to say, boy, not only did this kid from the south side of Chicago, I'm talking about really the south side of Chicago, get to live out his dream and his passion. I get to be a part of people's lives to help them heal. That's the key for me. And boy, I tell you, I'll get on a podcast every single day just to talk about how important that is for everybody. So thank you for letting me come on with
wow, man. You should add a pastor to your resume, too.
Exactly.
Because two doctorate degrees isn't enough,
Yeah, I mean, Jesus.
Well, my grandfather was a preacher, so, it might be
okay. All right. Maybe that's in your blood, too.
Put that in the story, Matt.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know what I love about this just so far, though? And you know what? I got to say, one of the happiest surprises of doing this show and being able to talk to so many cool people is the realization that, like, literally everybody who operates at this frequency has had this same epiphany sort of journey where you say, you know what? I went into the world in one way, and it was usually guided by other people. It could be parents, it could be society, it could be school, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then you get indoctrinated with these sort of professional biases that used to be sort of the norm when we were in our college years. And you look like we're of a similar generation, right? So we're not too far apart here. And when I was in college, there was no sort of questioning it. You just sort of like, this is what you do. Now, I went to art school, so it was a little different because we were making decisions on a lot of, extracurricular compounds, and maybe my schooling wasn't exactly that experience, but but like, I know most people that in my area of age haven't figured that out until 20 years, 25 years into a career where they're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I am completely operating on the wrong frequency right now, and I need to shift. And once you find that, it's
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like there's two origin stories, right? There's either this early signs and kind of this serendipity that we can't deny at a beginning thing, or like we've had people on that have like had a massive life-changing event happen, right? And then boom, they're on another path, right? I mean, we talked to another Dr. Dave a few weeks ago, and he was killing it in Minnesota, and then all of a sudden he couldn't handle it anymore. He got too big and ended up living in a converted
school
bus on farms for a year.
Yeah,
just
on purpose
to recover from the burnout.
Yeah, but it was crazy, man. Yeah. So you get out of like your very unimpressive list of schooling, and you're kind of just traveling around.
You really limped through your education.
Looking at where you're at now, and I want to get into this in a minute, but like, it doesn't feel like you started there. What happened like after the school thing? Did you take a more traditional or sort of middle of the road approach from where you're at now, or?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't always do the podcast and the shows and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I see what you mean. Well, that's really, I think, Doc, that's what I mean, that's the second defining moment there, because as I was a resident at Northwestern Chicago, I was a resident, and I'm sitting around thinking, I'm learning every morning. We call it morning report, right? So we get together, it's a bunch of the big ducks and the little chicks that are following around. I got to try to learn how to do this, right? So then, at 7:30 in the morning, every morning, you do a case and you learn about, medicine. And I'm sitting there every time hearts come up, and he's like, heart disease kills more people than all of the cancers combined. Now, that was 08, 07, 08. And it's 2024. That was 07, 08. All the cancers combined. But I just left a whole graduate school that taught me that we know what causes the main kinds of heart disease. Like, there's not a mystery. There's a lot of mystery still in what causes cancers. There's a lot of mystery of what causes a number of things. The things that we know really well, like urinary tract infections, like we know how to kill that. Boom, it's gone, right? But we don't know what causes cancer. We know what causes the main forms of heart disease. And we know how to prevent people from dying. Now, somebody, please tell me, what's the problem? Why is it still far and away the number one killer?
Why is it so hard?
It's a disconnect there. Yeah.
So what is it? Well, there's probably a lot of reasons, but my, feeble thinking was like, well, you're not getting the message out. How do you go and get the message to people without making it feel like you're, we used to talk about this fifth grader thing. I just don't agree with that. We are informivores now. We've got information coming out of our ears, literally right on our side. We're asleep. Information's pouring into our brains. Let's not talk to people like they're fifth graders. They're not. Let's talk to them where they are. And let's go where people are. It doesn't work to invite people to a health fair. You get 15 attendees, and that is a marvelous turnout.
They're miserable. They're miserable too.
Right?
They're so bad.
Right. So somebody tell me, who's gonna get the message out? Is it the people to whom the message is being given that it's the responsibility? No, it's the messenger. I liken it to sales. I take care of a bunch of salespeople. If you don't make the sale of what you're selling, whose fault is it? It's yours. And then what do? You go back to the drawing board, figure out why it wasn't so good, and you come back and sell it again. We haven't done that. We haven't accepted the idea that selling health is our main job, and the consumer is the entire American public, all of it, every last.
Not to jump off on the conspiracy train this early in the journey, but I love what you're saying, but like, just to throw it out there, like, how much of this is carved by the fact that there is really no fiduciary incentive to keep people healthy. There's only incentive to keep people
disease
sick.
management.
And so, it is the other answer to your question that they just don't fucking want to.
Not the American public, maybe the systems that be.
Right.
Well, and Tom, so we know that's not true, right? We know the American public isn't, because what's one of the number one things people search online? What's one of the number one things that people like on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook? It's about health and how do I stay healthy? Every last person has a body. And we want our bodies to be around for a long time and to function as well as we can. So guess what? I think you're right. But at the end of the day, that's myopic thinking. I think that people are short-sighted when they say, you can't make money by helping people be healthy. That's short-sighted.
Well, we definitely agree with that.
Drug companies can't make money by by people being healthy.
Well,
hospital systems may not be able to make money by keeping people healthy, but that's a fault in all of our thinking about what healthcare is, right?
No, exactly. And I think that if we really, said that this was going to be something that was important to do, that we could do it. Now, everybody's, where they, get their bread buttered would change, just like AI is about to change a bunch of stuff. And I know we're talking about AI.
See, thank you.
Yeah.
We get to press the buzzer
minutes,
today.
15 seconds.
It's definitely going to change things. And I just don't believe in a limit to human attainment.
For sure.
So all of that that really is a whole other podcast that we could talk about. But the truth is, it's simpler than that. What I was thinking, because I told you my feeble mind as a resident, you're not like thinking of some breakthrough Einsteinian things, right? You're just thinking of, it was pretty clear to me that we weren't getting the message out to people where they were. So I started media, even without the permission of the people who were training me, and they didn't like it very much. So I started in print, then I went and did radio, and I did a live radio show. And in the middle of the day, almost daily, I would run to the call room. There's a bedroom where you take call and turn on my, pull the phone up, because it was just phone back then. Pull the phone up and do my live radio. It was a 20-minute little hit, so it wasn't really long. But I was ghost for 20 minutes. All right, if the pager's going off, nope, I don't know where he is. And it started to help people because they had a live call-in show, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. And then I started doing TV and talk shows. And to make to put an end on that point, the first time I did the Steve Harvey show, literally was 4 blocks from Northwestern downtown Chicago.
Oh,
Wow.
I went
How
to
about
Steve
that?
Harvey. Yeah, it's fortuitous. Like, I'm like, oh,
You're
thank you.
right around the corner. Yeah.
We did a show on heart disease. Okay, go figure. Here's a cardiologist. We did a show on heart disease in a woman who didn't know she had it. Obviously, listening were very many women. And one woman wrote in 2 weeks later. And she said, thank you, Steve, for doing that show. I found out that I had 100% blockage in my RCA. That's
Wow.
a right coronary artery. It's
Yeah.
a big artery.
You just saved somebody's life right there.
Guess what I did? I mean, spine tingling all the way down.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the ticket, man. Forget about all the craziness.
Yeah.
If we can, and guess how many people that was multiplied by? And Steve Harvey was really popular at that time.
Pretty huge at that time. Yeah.
So what if we got 100 people to go in just from that show and go get screened and we caught heart disease? Here's what I know as a practicing cardiologist. The reason why we miss heart disease in women and in men is because we don't test enough. And if you don't test, you will not know, no matter how healthy you think you are. That's it.
Yeah, and
I love that because you're actually talking about, and I've seen this in my humble little acupuncture clinic where you have populations that are like, oh, now you're female, now you might be black. Oh, now we're moving you further and further away from getting the care and attention you need. And I shouldn't be the one diagnosing estrogen dominance and stuff like that. That's not my hat.
Yeah,
but
PCOS,
you laid down. You said your hair is thinning. You got 2 giant lumps in your lower abdomen. Hey, these are fibroids. Yeah, I know why your hair's falling out.
Yeah.
When'd you go to the gynecologist last? 2 weeks ago. How did they miss this?
Yeah.
So you being able to get on TV in front of that perfect audience. I mean, wow, that's such a blessing. And to everyone that heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't clear to me when I was doing it. I was like, this is just a way to, I guess,
promote yourself.
Build my station.
Yeah.
And be on TV. Like, who doesn't want to be on TV? Like, I want to be on TV.
Yeah.
I'm a clown. I want to be on TV, So, but then the purpose was there. And man, if that doesn't make your spine tingle, come see me. I got the medicine for you. Like that. That's what it's about. So I was really happy to find that purpose, and that's what I'm doing. That's where the podcast started. When I started the Health Mastery Cafe podcast, it was in a cafe, literally downtown Chicago. And I was like, let's not do it in a studio. That's boring. And this was back when it was just audio podcasts. I was doing it myself. I'm recording and I'm editing in Logic Express, which is, the little, I'm learning how to do all this stuff, And then it's evolved over time. It was a long hiatus. I got very busy with my own practice. And I said, stop trying to do it on your own, knucklehead. There are people who love to do this more than you do.
Sure.
Hire them, partner with them. Don't try to do things alone. So in there, I'm really understanding partnership, other people. Like, really, I didn't know that before, right? Like, and when you do it together, man, you can really reach so many more lives. That's what I'm here for. And so the current version of the Health Mastery Cafe is video mainly, although we have the audio. And we've got all kinds of guests that come. And much like your show, it's just nothing off the table. Let's be done with being so, straightforward. Look, I'm the talking head on News Nation for medical commentary. Okay, good. I'll do that on News Nation. 3 minutes, let's say at 1, 2, 3, tie the whole 9. Okay.
Yeah. And you get a couple of sound bites in and you're done. Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's soundbite medicine. Nobody can get healed with that. With that being said, on my podcast, I can talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's what we're doing. We're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
Go ahead, no, because I'm going to be jumping all over this conversation.
It's just fantastic that you get to do that. I love when people can. It feels like you're really living your best life with this thing, and that is actually like a good version of the story because it's good for all of us, right? Like,
and you're really putting the root of doctor out there, right? That's to teach. That's to spread a message. And like coming from an East Asian medicine standpoint, like we break things into 5 elements. You are a fire element. And I can tell that just from the short, 15, 20 minutes we've been on.
For like 10 minutes on it.
So what is that? That's joy. that's associated with the heart. That's like shouting when you get passionate, right? This is loud. This is out there. This is sharing with everybody. And it's you know, like I'm amped up now just listening to you talk.
Yeah,
you know, yes, he's definitely fire. He's lighting other fires.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I'm writing that down. Fire element.
That's good stuff.
Element,
yeah, look it up. I'll send you a chart.
We had a woman on our
God.
show that did tests like this, and it was funny because I took it, and after the show, she wrote me back with my results, and I was like, "Yeah, you pretty much nailed that one, didn't you?"
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird. Thousands of years of like quote unquote like soft medicine, and you're like, no, the chart exists because we did this, you know, several 100,000 times over several thousand years.
Yeah.
And these little bits all kind of string together, and you're like, you don't hang a diagnosis on any one thing, but sometimes people are like literally shouting. What's going on?
It's interesting that we're not that much different than we were thousands of years ago. We are not evolved that much. You know,
we're the same species, right? You know, it's.
Yeah. But you know, Dave, I got to talk to you real quick and ask you a question about the education piece, man. Because so
let me see if I can answer.
So what resonates with me entirely is the education. Like I dig that. That's what this show is literally about. Like all we do is talk to people about stuff they probably wouldn't be researching otherwise, or just doing a deeper dive on weird shit that they don't want to admit that they looked into. But like either way, that's what it's at its core, all education.
Yeah.
When it comes down to that, though, it is. I mean, Tom and I are oddballs. We spend all day, every day texting each other articles and like, hey, did you see this? Did you do that? Right. But it's a full-time job, dude. Like all the time, every day.
The amount of research that's coming out, you can't possibly keep up.
Right. And I've got a foofy concierge doc now because I just couldn't take the fact that all my doctors were like, you know, giving me the 8-minute physical. You know, now my physical takes
8.
half
Boy,
a day.
That's gracious.
It's like. You know, and like when I got my first blood panel back from them, it's like a phone book. I'm like, what the hell are all these things? I've never even heard of half of these things, right? And I'm like, and he goes, yeah, brother, we got to talk. You got like some stuff going on over here and over here and over there. I'm like, I don't even know what I do this crap all day, every day, like just curiosity. And I don't know what half of this shit is.
Yeah.
And so like God help the person who doesn't have a curiosity or a desire for this at all. I mean, look, everybody wants to be healthy. You're right. But how many people still smoke cigarettes? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, okay, well, we want to be healthy,
or eat processed meat, you know? Oh, that gets my guys in the gut, man.
And so like when you, I mean, how do you sort of fight that fight, right? I mean, you can only do so many podcasts and whatnot. I mean, I don't know, because I'm curious, because I don't know how to get people excited about this stuff. Like, you know, what are the health consequences of a high lipo A or, you know, apo B? They're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? My total cholesterol was under 200. I'm good. And I'm like, there's like 50 other markers apparently.
But you're Matt. So you're hitting on the point. That old thinking we don't even talk like that anymore in the conferences. Remember what I said? Docs and researchers are talking to each other in these big, massive, especially cardiology. You know, we've got these massive conferences, like thousands and thousands of people. We don't even still say that stuff, but it's still stuck in people's brain. Oh, well, my HDL, the good cholesterol.
Right.
My HDL is high, so I don't have to care about my LDL. Wait, that is so old.
Yeah.
Right. And people are telling me about the total cholesterol, and I'm like, we don't even talk about total cholesterol anymore. Like total, as the name, you know, implies, is it's a sum of the good and the bad and a fifth of the triglycerides. So boy, if the good is high, your total could be high. It's not going to be a good barometer. So we've got to be breaking things down for people. Guess whose job that is? That's our job. It is not the consumer to sell the new gadget. It is the salesperson's job to sell the new gadget, the new information, the iPhone, you know, and there are people who do it really well, right? That's why I have to say.
I want to ask a follow-up on something you said here, because I think this is really relevant. When there seems to be a delay in the research, and this is known, and what's actually in practice, right? And it takes a certain amount of time because that research is churning out daily. Yeah. And there's sometimes years, right? I remember reading an article by a Greek physician, and he was, you know, I think the article was titled like "Lies, All Lies" or something like that. And he took a look at the research based on, I think, 10 different common things that are said by doctors, right? And he goes to a conference and he goes, all of these things are absolutely wrong according to research. And he thinks he's going to get, they're going to string him up at the conference. And all the doctors just nodded and go, yeah, that sounds right. But yet they would go back to their clinics and use that same, hey, this is a BMI and this is what's good and this is bad, and not having this whole picture. And it was almost like, they were like, yeah, what do you want us to do about it? Well, you guys are reading the new research. How does that, in a system like a hospital, in an individual clinic, you have some freedom. But if you're working as part of a bigger medical system, how do you be that change, I guess is my question.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's part of the reason why I left a big system, a fantastic system, by the way, just to do what you're saying, which is to practice in a way I think people want, which is, on the cutting edge, understanding what's out there, what's new. But let's do what is known, what the old traditional conventional stuff. Let's do that really well. And what I'm trying to get across is we're not even doing the conventional stuff really well. If we're way back talking about total plus H and, HDL, like we're not even doing that well. If we had that message out, right? If I said to you guys, stop, drop, and roll, everybody's going to say roll because we got that pounded into our brains.
Sure.
If we're all sitting in a movie theater and all of a sudden we're enjoying the movie and all of a sudden from the ceiling drops a mask with a bag hanging from it, guess what everybody's going to do?
They're going to put that mask right on.
On. You know why?
Yeah, they're going to put it on their children first.
Conditioned by the information to put that mask on yourself first. They didn't have to say it, but you're conditioned. Guess what we've got to do? We've got to get the message out like stop, drop, and roll and put your mask on first. If we don't do that, people are not going to learn it. So if I come out to you and I say during some of the worst, the worst health of the nation, the globe, and I say, oh, go ahead and all of a sudden I'm trying to tell you what to do. You're not going to listen to me. If I say, go put on a mask because it's going to save you from having COVID. If I say, if you get this vaccine, it'll stop you from getting very sick from COVID. Well, you haven't talked to me for really, who the hell are you? Like, I don't even know you. How can I trust you? Remember that trust gap is because the person didn't earn it. Trust is earned. And because we lost it a long time ago, there are whole groups of people who got, like demolished by healthcare and science and doctors and all that stuff in the past. We still haven't. Forget about the past. What about yesterday? What about tomorrow? There's somebody, being harmed now. And because we're not upfront with that stuff, we're not in your face all the time. Then when I show up, when it really matters, what are you talking about, dude? Like, I don't believe you. First of all, you're underhanded. You're trying to make money. You're a conspiracy, blah, right? And from this side, let me just tell you, from this side, we're like, nobody goes into this stuff. Let me just give you my own case, right? I'm sitting in medical school with a bunch of people. Many of them could pay for it, but I couldn't, who are about to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, have some of the worst emotional experiences of their lives, be physically drained for years just so we can say something crazy to you or just write a medicine. Nobody goes into medicine or research, which is completely nobody gets thanked for being at the research bench. Like nobody. Who's going to dedicate their lives to that just to dupe you? Nobody. So let's take a different lens. Like, who's going to go into I'm still finishing my. Who wants to go pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans for that? Sure. So we got to be thinking maybe that's not what it is. Maybe they have a messaging problem. Maybe they have a PR problem, and maybe they have a marketing problem. That's exactly what we have. In order to get past what you and I just talked about, we've got to be in front of people more, saying, "Hey, listen, this is coming out. This is what we're doing in the research lab." We think that we might be able to use mRNA against certain cancers. This is very early, everybody. This is very early. So we're probably 10 years out from even doing this in humans. But I'm really excited because this scientist has spent 15 years before now coming up with this. And I think we're here. So if you have a channel that people go to, because it's out there, it's there. Like we could go to, the federal government demands that they put that stuff out there. Who's going to read the jargon? But if you had somebody translate it on a regular basis, they're like, oh shit, they've been doing this for a long time. So that when it comes down to some crisis like we had with the pandemic, COVID-19, then you're like, oh yeah, these guys have been working on mRNA literally for 35 years. Literally.
And you know what? The narrative that, to your earlier point, I mean, when those stories come out, and you know, we all got those family members that are like, yeah, but you know, a vaccine should take years to do, and they did it in months. And I'm like, see, like that little
you guys weren't
misconception,
looking. Yeah.
like just that alone, you're like, all right, well, you know, everything you say from this point on is flawed because like your Genesis block is off, right? Like,
yeah. Well, even when they're like, no, it hasn't been tested enough. I'm like, you don't understand. There were people lining up around blocks to get the test shot. Yeah. You know, they've never been able to move research this fast because you had willing subjects to try it on.
Well, and I got stumped last week. We interviewed Ariel Gartner, who's like founded the Muse headband.
Muse headband.
And they've got studies now with 500,000 participants that were self-elected. Like there's no, like all the exclusion criteria, everything that could be pre-done before you actually send the message out because they've got all of the data on these patients.
Imagine having an N population of 500,000.
Yeah, right.
You know, like,
wow. Yeah. So like when we look at stuff like that, I get super excited about the stuff that you're talking about because guys like you in practices like you have, and Dr. Dave that Tom mentioned earlier, they're working on a thing where basically, you know, it's a concierge model, but basically it ties into all of your wearables. And
AI data driven.
They have AI crunching the numbers, and he's been a clinician for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he knows, like, we think this equals that. So AI, go look at that and validate us. And then it says, yeah, you're right or you're wrong. But then it goes, okay, but did you also know? And one of the things that still blows my mind.
Pulling data that we can't formulate because the equation's too complicated.
And you know what he said? He found
you can't know all that stuff, to your point.
No, you couldn't possibly. And this will blow your mind. One of his test subjects goes,
yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. He found out that if he ate 30 grams of protein after 7 p.m., his sleep scores went up 27%. I'm like,
what?
Who the fuck knows that? Yeah, like, how could you possibly know that about something?
That's cool.
But that, you know how
all that raw data was dumped into an AI.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and another, Tom and I are trying to get her on the show now, but a friend of a friend is Dr. Doris Taylor, who's printing human hearts. I don't know if you know anything.
Yeah, no, I don't know Doris Taylor. Yeah.
But
he's taking notes.
She's been researching this,
sending out emails
20 years. And I think that they're basically working on a funding problem because, like, I think one side doesn't really think that you could print a human heart. She's like, well, I mean, I got all this and I can't wait to talk to her because I don't really know what's holding this up. Because you think, like, if I could print a human heart, dude, I'm putting those things on an assembly line, bro.
Yeah,
like,
I'm kicking them out right now.
Are you kidding? You know how many lives will be saved? Listen, I'm watching that one, man. Okay, that's for sure.
But she's a fascinating person. But like, these are all happening at the same time, right? So what I love about your practice, and I said this at the top of the show, it aligns your story and your current outcome align with so many other stories we heard. And I almost feel like there's this sort of like universal awakening of people to be like, you know, all that shit they told us in school in our starting, Tom's got a quote in there. It's like, they told us not to do drugs and now they're telling us to do drugs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's exactly what's happening.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, like everything's crazy. Yeah, you know.
Honestly, Matt convinced me to do this show just because we get to have conversations like this.
Exactly.
Everyone in the world's an idiot, but I want to sit down and have interesting conversations. You know, it's like, and you don't get that opportunity day to day.
So
it's interesting that people are doing this. I love that you guys are showcasing those conversations because we get a lot of the other stuff. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I love this show, because you showcase the interesting conversations of people who are really trying to not just have the conversation on the ground, right? Trying to get it done. That's why this is so good, man. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you. I love your prevent clinic, or do you call it pre-event clinic? What's that? How do you?
Yeah, no, we say prevent, like defense.
Prevent. Yeah. Awesome use of words. I applaud the linguist.
He is a marketing guy
I'm
at
a marketing
heart.
guy,
So
I better be after saying all that stuff about marketing. You better get it together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. So are you guys what's your model? Are you guys sort of concierge-y? Are you like a regular open clinic? That
conventional insurance. People can be self-pay as well. And it is prevent from before the event.
And that's exactly why I love it.
To
It's
get
like
there
the best
before you have the
name ever.
events. When we talk about events in cardiology, we talk about heart attack, strokes. I added heart failure. That's what we're passionate about on the cardiology side. My office started as a cardiology practice for helping people prevent what I said a long time ago. I was like, why are we doing this? And it works well. The model is all insurance at this point or self-pay. When we first started, we did have the idea that we would have a hybrid, that some people could have a membership and that some people could have conventional insurance. And I bit off more than I could chew. And I don't like as a business owner to release something, put it out in prime time until I think it's ready. I think you start things before you're ready, but I don't think you publish a piece before it's ready to go. I mean, you could just zoom out and see that it had too many cracks and crevices. And so we didn't do that, but I was glad that we built out the office that way with just a little bit of a different texture on one side than the other, with the same, fun-loving staff and other offerings so that we could be there, listen to this part, for the celebrities that we have in the city. And let me tell you why. It may sound elitist, but remember how
sounds like a marketing fucking genius to me.
The celebrities are when it comes to health. If somebody comes on television and talks about ADD, if somebody talks about breast cancer, and that Olivia Munn, for example, just said I had a double mastectomy. You know how young she is? She's 40 something. I just had a double mastectomy for breast cancer that I was told I didn't have. The mammogram was wrong. I had to keep diving and I found out I had breast cancer, and I had a double mastectomy to try to prevent ever having full breast cancer again. And then talking about some of the things that she went through, the Jamie Foxx saga, the Bronny James, like when they come up and they talk about what has happened to them for health, guess what happens? Awareness raises. People Google, they start reading, and you understand. Awareness is number one. Then application of what you just learned is number two. So my thought was, man, I got to have a place where we can help them too, because although they have a big influential impact when something happens to them, well, come on, we don't want it to happen to them. And I will tell you, having practiced that way for now 6 years and seeing a lot of really large stars, they don't think that they can go to the large medical institutions because when they pull up, everybody's going to know who they are. Oh,
yeah, and you're going to have every person in that hospital mugging them for a photo. Yeah,
that's right, or not even right, just filming him and saying, "Oh yeah, he went into the Cancer Institute. Oh yeah, you just went to the heart doctor."
I know you're here for a double mastectomy,
but does he have? Blah, blah, blah.
Should I just selfie?
I know, right?
Should just get out of surgery.
Well, these days you could just make AI and be like, "Oh yeah, he's at my house." No, But it was mainly to be able to have a place where they could come. So ours is a mixed use building. We've got lawyers and real estate people and financial guys. So you can come up a back way, go into a private suite, get your care, top quality cardiac care, and then go home. And then it was very clear to me that to have that was it was more far-reaching than I could ever imagine, because there's so many of our stars and celebrities, and we look at them in the glam and the glitz, and they are ill, like physically ill,
sure,
and psycho-emotionally ill, and it's just not fair. It's kind of how I feel about the veterans. Why do we allow our men and women to come back to a place that has not embraced them in healthcare? Like, that should be the easiest thing. Like, we should be rolling out the red carpet top.
And they're consistently pushed to the back. Yeah. Consistently.
And so there are these groups. But I don't want to sound elitist. I think everybody should have it. That's why Prevent is self-pay, insurance, or celebrity. However you want to do it. I don't really care. This is for everybody. That's why I like News Nation. This news for everybody. My clinic is for everybody, and I'm telling you, we get everybody in there, right? Everybody's in there, because what's more important than anything, guys, is health. Everybody's health is at the top of the... Like, when you're not healthy, we say health is wealth, but forget about that. Like, if you're not healthy, nothing else matters. Do you hear me? Nothing. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and happy to talk about it.
So
that's great.
the spread, take celebrities out of the mix for a minute.
Yeah.
Everybody else, have you noticed a trend since you started kind of getting this sort of gospel out there? Have you noticed any shift in the distribution? Like, are you talking? I mean, I would imagine as a cardiologist, you guys slant probably older in general. I don't imagine that most people are seeing their cardiologist.
Yeah, maybe they're not even thinking about getting their heart checked before they're, in their 40s, 50s.
Right.
Yeah. No, so that's a great question. So actually, we're right down the middle in my clinic. I'm a preventive doctor, before.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we have about 55% if we just use Medicare age as kind of a cutoff, that's 65.
Okay.
So more than half of our patients are younger than that. So we are seeing people who we discover stuff early. Remember, when you have a heart attack at 65, it didn't start when you were 60. It started when you were 40, probably sooner. You get what I'm saying? So our messaging, I think, is working. Come see me when you're 30. So that if we find the markers, and you can if you look, remember, that's the key, not looking in the right people. So when we look and we find them, the reason why they come back is so that we can continue following them and treating it, right? So you find something, your lipoprotein A, as you mentioned earlier, Matt, your LPA is really high. Let's make sure we're doing deep dives and we're keeping up with it. And we're human. So a human is going to be motivated for a little while. You'll have a wavelength, like a sine wave. Yeah. And then I might meet you at a time when you forgot all that stuff. So
Tom and I don't know anything about that.
I
definitely don't have a drawer full of weirdo gadgets that I have not used in.
And you were totally psyched about them when you first got them.
I don't have that.
And they were the best things in the world when we bought them. You know what's interesting to me, and I think how much of that younger population, and we'll use 65 as the marker, although there's plenty of super vibrant people well over that. How much of that has a previous family history? How many of those people are saying, hey, you know what? My dad, when I was 13, passed, and I'm about his age now. I want to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
Versus how many are just that in tune to their health going, I'm just here to make sure nothing's wrong.
Yeah, no. So, very large numbers of the people that we see in the young ages are coming because they see their dad, their mom, or something like that. There's some family history. That's exactly what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Once we diagnose it, we've got very young people too who have had events, heart attacks, strokes, and heart failure. So once you've had it, my messaging to them is very simple. As long as you're alive, we can prevent the next one. So you're still coming to prevent, right? To make sure that we get all of the risk factors under control, and you're doing exactly what you should be doing from a lifestyle standpoint, which is the most important thing that we could ever do. And I think that message is then propagated because I think the practice has grown. The cardiology side has grown because of that. Well, they'll go and say, hey, listen, man, if that happened to your dad or your mom, go and just get screened. We should be in this country, at least in this country, if not in the industrialized world, be thinking about going to get a heart screen like we think about going to get a colonoscopy. If I was actually
almost used that analogy earlier.
Yeah, that's exactly
I just got my first one, and I was like,
so
why
when
are we doing
I
this for
ask you guys to tell me when is the recommendation, what's the age that we should be when we first get our colonoscopies? Now we'll all say
45.
45. Right? Some people will still say 50, but that's 50, okay. At least you'll say a number. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is the age at which you should get your first heart screen?
I
got mine at like 39, I think.
Yeah.
Crickets. Do you know why?
Yeah, crickets.
Because you didn't do when that mask falls out of the ceiling, put your mask. You don't have the messaging, so you don't know. And that's a shame because in February, we all recited together, all together now, right? Heart disease kills more people. You've got to know your risk factors. No, forget about that. That's old school. That's Schoolhouse Rock. Okay. I don't know if you guys are old enough for Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
So Schoolhouse
I think we're older than you, man.
I appreciate
that. I'm 50. I just turned 50 in November.
Oh, God bless.
Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
Yeah, no.
I'm clearly doing something wrong.
I'm almost 48, but yeah.
But to that point, it's funny when people have a disease, whether it's gut or whether it's cardiac or whether it's, autoimmune, they start taking better care of their health across the board, right? So if you're taking better care of your heart, you're going to see that in your skin. You're going to see that in your digestion. You're going to see that, right? Because it's exercise, it's dietary, it's lifestyle modification. And all of that adds up to you being healthier in every aspect of your life, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is exactly right when we do it all, the comprehensive survey. The problem is the habit now in current American medicine is that you think that you're done when you have seen your primary care provider, when you've had the appropriate cancer screens, and you stop. And you should. You know why? Because that's been the messaging so far. You don't think that you still have left a cardiac screen. Guess whose fault? You see how all roads lead back to Rome?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So, how do you, the people that are coming to you though, I mean, are they coming to you for acute diagnosis and care, or are they, I mean, it seems like your younger cohort's coming as a preventative thing.
That's right.
And your name is saying that, but like, what does that cadence look like? Is that a quarterly visit, an annual visit, a semi-annual? Like what are we talking about?
Yeah, that's great. So most people see me twice a year unless we are dealing with something that will require me to see you with a higher frequency. So, you know, for example, if your blood pressure is super high and you just never knew it, you never had any symptoms, you went and you haven't seen a doctor since your sports physical. And boy, or you're going for life insurance, right? There's a lot of stuff in our age range, right? Where, you know, that's what we're commonly doing. So they're like, dude, my blood pressure was 170 on the top. And you can have 170 and feel amazing. At least you think you feel amazing till it gets under control. In other words, not everything that can harm you hurts. So, you know, they'll come and boy, if I've got to take care of the blood, I don't see you one time, help you get it together and then see you in 6 months. Well, that's not going to work. Obviously, we've got some things to toggle and to change and take some things out and re-educate and change perspective. A lot of that has to do with lifestyle and lifestyle choices. There are very many people who think that what they're doing is the very right thing to do, and it is wrong. They may be doing something that they heard on TikTok or read online, and I like that, except I like that they read. I should say. I mean,
reading is good.
Because that soundbite will cover. I like that you read, and I like that you're consuming the information because it's the most important thing that you could ever pay attention to.
And they're open to it. Yeah.
But one size doesn't fit all. And a person who could do a juice cleanse of a certain type or eat a bunch of kale and be fine, the next person will be in the ER. You cannot do what everybody else can do. Not everybody can take rapamycin. Not everybody can take, metformin for, to fight cancer. Not everybody. No, seriously.
You just listed a bunch of drugs we've played with.
Yeah, Tom is one of those guys.
But in order for you to know, you got to go see the guy. I can't take metformin,
by the way.
And the only way that you know is experiential, right? So you got to go see the guy to know. And when I'm working with somebody and we're not on autopilot yet, I might see you once a month. Until we get it. But the large majority of people, to just be straightforward with you, Matt, is twice a year and, just sort of going through things and, turning over rocks and stones we didn't turn over before, crossing T's. Yeah. Sure.
So I guess kind of a follow-up sort of to that, because this happened with me and I'm sort of working through this in my personal, this is one of the things I wanted to
Matt just wants free healthcare advice.
No. I'm already working on this, but I'm already working on this. But you are a fun second opinion. Yeah. So when you get your blood test, like, so again, I shifted over into this sort of quasi concierge thing, and like the results were a lot bigger. So when I first started getting a deep dive on this, probably 2 years ago ish or something, I remember getting my first blood test back, and they've got 2 columns, like in range, out of range, and like I saw all of my heart markers were all out of range, and I had a fucking heart attack.
Yeah, not scary.
I was like, oh my God. And then you see numbers that you see reference, and like, your numbers are all like fucked up. Like my lipo A was 191, right? And I remember having like a freak out because I'm like, reference is like 70 or something.
75, like, 75.
75. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to die tomorrow. Like, that's basically what this test says. And my wife is like, dude, stop. Like, you're being ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like, it was just, it wasn't that. It was like, Yeah, right. But my LDL was like 148, and I'm like, holy fuck! Like, I'm like literally, I can't even imagine I'm alive enough to read this test. Like, that's how, you know. And then my biological father died at 50. I never knew him, but we found out later he did die of an MI, and we just didn't know like anything about his life or anything like that. So we had to make some assumptions. We sort of found a picture of him. He looked a little heavy, so like, but we have no information. So here I am reading this test. I'm like, oh my God, I have a 191 at lipo A, and my dad died at 50, and here I am 45. I'm like, shit. The hourglass has turned over. I gotta redo my will, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, and I know you probably have another point, but I even if we cut this out,
no, that is my point. Is like, how do we temper people?
So if you had come to me, we dive right in and get testing, because not everybody's LPA is toxic. But there are certain groups that if we see it high, we don't play games. And so a Caucasian male who has a high lipoprotein A should beeline to the cardiologist. Not because you're going to die or combust, but because you want to see what the state of your arteries are, the large ones. So here's what I want you to do. And this is post-haste, like don't play around. Like stress test, echocardiogram. The echo is a heart ultrasound. And I'll explain why. And then the third one is a coronary calcium scan, or CT.
Got the coronary. I have a 0.
Good. The fourth thing, controversial. So I'm editorializing.
Please.
The fourth thing is to go even deeper dive. If there's enough reason to believe that there is family history, and you are getting close to the age where that first degree family had an event or died, I want you to have a different CT scan, if it's appropriate for you. Not everybody's appropriate. Called the CT coronary angiogram. And let me tell you why. The CT coronary angiogram, same CAT scanner. You just stay in it for longer. It's 30 minutes, not 7 minutes. And they put an IV in and you get contrast. Okay, so therein lies that it's not for everybody, because the contrast can have some effects. What the contrast does is tells the difference between old plaque and new plaque. We call it calcified plaque and non-calcified plaque. Plaque is born non-calcified. Think about it as the gray hair of plaque. Most people are not born with gray hair. Okay. I mean, we had a couple of, peers that were, but most people get gray hair as they move through the life course. 50, 40, some of us 35, 40, 50, right?
16, just to say. I mean.
Okay. See, there you go. That's why you look so good, man. I'm telling you, that's people are trying to go for your look right now. You know that, right?
Oh, I know. They spend a fortune.
You're like,
have this for free.
Yes.
Yeah.
I woke up like this. Okay. So because you want to know, you don't want to be fooled by a test that's going to look for old plaque. Well, what if your plaque is new? And it doesn't matter if the plaque is big or not. You want to know if it's there so you can put the kibosh on it. Blah, blah. Just like that. Yeah. Why? Here's what we learned a long time ago in physiology. It's not the big plaques that cause the most heart attacks. It's the small, fragile, weak plaques that cause them, because they break easier.
Break off. Yeah.
And when they break off, that's when the clotting process happens and you clot a vessel. So the reason why I want you to know, having done some of the testing already, is because you want to see what your risk is now. So that and the other added benefit of that is you cannot have to be everything that happens to you, like an earache and you think you're going to have a heart attack. Go get that objective data to say, I know I've got an increased risk, and I'm going to keep watching that. Just like if there's colon cancer in the family, you're going to go get a colonoscopy, but you're not going to just stop. The first time you get it, it can develop later. So you're going to get time point now. I'm 40, blah. Yeah. And at this age, I know I don't have coronary artery disease. At this age, I know I don't have any plaque. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm trying to get the CEO of Grail on the show. He hasn't returned my call yet, but I'm trying to get him because I just took the Galleri test and I'm waiting for my results to come back. But I'm fascinated by this technology because it's one of those things you're like, okay, and the test has got some flaws. We can get into that another day. But I mean, it's to your point, you can put a point in time and you can say, as of 48, I either had or did not have a cancer marker. And so now, the joke in my house is, well, if dad passes this test, that's not great and we have to deal with it. But I probably, hopefully, have it catchable and small enough where we have not caught it. If I fail this test, which we're hoping for, then we know as of right now, I'm good. And next year, when I inevitably have to do this again for every year for the rest of my life now, we will have a 1 year window of when that happened. But,
yeah.
You know, it's $1,000 test and not everybody even knows about it. And like, that's the problem with these things, right? It's like, we actually did a whole episode on, you could probably live forever if you had enough money.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
You know,
admittedly, the test I just said is not cheap, right? It's some of the centers in Atlanta is $550. Like, who's got $550? It's just be shelling it out. So you're right. Yeah.
Well, some people do, and those people,
I think it would also depend on how severely you're concerned, right? You know, it's certainly you didn't drop a 10K bill on there, but 550 is a lot of money for a lot of people.
Right.
For most people, that's a lot. I mean, my doctor's office has a deal with the Galleri test, so it's like it was only $750, but then I'm like, but did I just say that out loud? Only $750? Like, it's fucking crazy. Yeah. That's like a lot of money.
But that also is because you prioritize your health, right? For somebody else, they're like, no, I gotta pay my phone bill, and that's this, or I'd rather go on this vacation or do something else. You know, they might be putting their emphasis in the wrong areas, or not. I shouldn't say the wrong areas. I don't mean to judge anybody. But
I think I get what you're saying, Doc. So I do think that part of that reframing, though, I know I sound like a broken record, man. But part of that,
no, man, you got to do it. That's how people remember shit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I should sound like a broken record. But part of the reframing has to be our responsibility. We've got to tell people that, listen, yes, it can happen to you, because that's the calculation many people are saying. Some people know their family history. Some people know it's pretty bad, but they're like, but I'm different. I can't tell you how many guys sit in my, like high functioning dudes, man, like, CEOs and managers and mid-levels, and right. And saying, my dad had this, my mom had this, but like I'm better than them, essentially, to put it in short terms.
That's what they're saying, in not so unclear terms.
And so then I'm not going to get it. And those are the guys that are a lot harder to get to. And I have some techniques to get to them. But those are the guys who they have to come back. We have to go farther than just a calcium score. We've got to go deeper to say, hey, listen, I know you're healthy. You are not unhealthy just because we find a little plaque. But if you let that little plaque keep going, you're going to be unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
It'll take you out.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's that messaging piece. And we've got to have a whole group of people, just like Google has and Meta has, and all these people have, where all they do all day long is figure out how to get our marketing out to people, the marketing department, the relations people. And we've got to have that for medical science and for medicine, the whole medical landscape, that's all they do all day long, and make it fun for people. And that's a whole industry. We could use AI to do that, but that's a whole industry, and that's what's going to be necessary for us.
But it's funny you said that, and I know you said it kind of like as a side note, like, oh, we could use AI for it. But like you said something earlier in the show that like, AI is going to change some things and not change others. But I'm like, here's the one piece that is going to change. And I think we just need to be the architect of that solution.
That's right.
But AI, I don't know if you saw this, Tom, I don't know if you remember the reference, but they had like a real peer-reviewed A/B test, and the placebo group got physicians. And
this was on Reddit.
Yeah. And
this was on Reddit. Yeah. See, Dr. Dave already knows where we're going with this.
And the AI fucking crushed it. Not
crushed
only
real doctors.
Crushed diagnostic accuracy. And this one blew our mind. Empathy. Like 5x on the empathy.
Yes.
Right. So if the wake up call to doctors is like, listen, people, if a fucking AI is outscoring you on empathy, you're doing something wrong. Like something is incorrect. Like,
and I mean, we've done shows on the huts, the diagnostic huts that they're going to come out. You walk into a room and AI does all the testing. And, Chinese urinals that you pee in, and it does their whole urinalysis. And wow, we're going to have this accessibility to all this knowledge in a way that we're talking about it now. we have no idea what that's going to look like in 5 years.
No, absolutely. And 100 is going to be the new 75, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to all be walking around like Yoda, you know? But so I believe, like Ted, I think his name is Sarand. What's the co-CEO over at Netflix? Sarandos? Is it Sarandos?
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He
I
said
can't remember his name.
AI is not going to take your job. The guy who knows and understands AI and uses it better than you.
And the dude that took out Blockbuster by disrupting the industry is not ready for disronna.
But he was saying was the human that wields the power the best is gonna take your job, not just
absolutely
AI.
I got what you're saying there.
AI,
but you know what's a damn
still
shame?
Doesn't have a soul. Okay. I think that for as much as we can sort of take from that, remember that's a small study. What I teach people to do is take these smaller studies, these one-offs that you see in the news media, these sound bites that are really attractive for journalists to put out there so that you can get eyes. That's what they have to sell eyes as even though that their job is to sell information, they have to sell, hey, get your eyes on this, click on this. I get it. So it's sexy. But that study wasn't robust. It wasn't large. But here's what it gave us: more questions to ask. And here's what I took from it. If AI could do it, then it's algorithmic. What AI did was used some words that have been studied that evoke a certain emotion, sentiment, or response. And it used it. And the human being responded. Now, I don't want to make us seem that sort of automaton, like kick. But the truth is that's out there. That's human psychology. That's human sociology. And we're not taught to do that. And the other piece that I just took that even further was, if the algorithm could do it, be right on the money diagnostically and have empathy so that you don't walk away feeling like you just, talk to a ATM.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then it also can be used to put away this disparate care. So there is, an Asian male who's going to go into an emergency room today and is not going to get the right diagnosis and will unfortunately suffer. And it's because we're human, and there's nothing wrong with being human. But we've got to be able to say to each other, but in our humanness, we've got some flaws. And we, as a mode of survival, we have these things that we do. I make a decision about you really quickly. That's not bad. I just have to understand that that's what I do. And sometimes I'm not feeling so great. And yesterday I was feeling amazing and I didn't miss it. But today I had an argument with my wife and I'm not feeling great. So you remind me of her. And I just don't really care. So I'm not going to order. And I know this sounds very sort of tongue in cheek, but this is real. If we just,
and it doesn't even have, it could be subconsciousness, right? It doesn't have to be in the forefront. You're not doing this intentionally.
You're not doing it consciously. You're not going to say to the black guy, oh, you're a black guy. I'm not going to do the CT scan. Nobody's doing that. Listen, people, nobody's doing that. The problem is it's a part of an unconscious bias. Now we know that. But forget about that. So we know that. What do we do about it? We've got to understand it. And that's where you use AI. Help me not deliver disparate care to this woman. Let me do the CT scan that I would normally do, the stress test, whatever it is. Help me not give disparate care to the 17-year-old kid who came in and I think he's just goofing off, right? That's where we use it. And I think I think everybody would agree with that.
And then I think that's a brilliant usage, right? You still have, let's say, human oversight, but you're leaning into the tech, you're leaning into the knowledge base, and you're pulling from so many data points that you just can't hold in your own head.
Well, see, what I took from that, Doc, is a little different. I mean, I think those are all points that are great, and I think I see and agree with all those. But I think one thing I took out of that was the nod of the hat to saying, okay, if these were out diagnosing and out empathying. Yes. And we know what AI is. It's token prediction. It just knows that this equals that and it does it, right? And it's great at that. But what it also does is it amasses a lot of relational data that we could do ourselves if our brains were a little bigger and we had a lot more time. So what I cannot do, and actually my neighbor used to sell Da Vinci the Da Vinci machine, the little robot, AI robot surgery.
Yeah.
And
he's retired, doing fine, you know.
No, and
he cashed out.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, no, don't worry about him.
I think she said something like 10,000 surgeries a day or some wacky number. It was like a lot.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that through an AI lens. I said, you know what that means? That means there's 9,999 other Da Vinci's learning to the hundredths of a second new lessons. And it's distributed at a global scale. And therefore, if new information is presented in Tokyo, at the same time somebody in Rio de Janeiro is having one, that information is immediately translated, and it's translated to the hundredths of an inch, to the neuron level, to the, you know, there's just no physical way a human could replicate that. Like I could download JAMA and AMA and PubMed daily.
There's no chance.
Sort it by category and understand everything, and do like the most wicked meta-analysis of anything at a drop of a pin. But here's where it gets all fucked up. The Parkinson's disease, I don't know if you've seen this, but they've got like protein, models that are more efficient than nature.
Yeah.
But guess who's not sharing? That guy. Like, he's not sharing that data with other Parkinson drug researchers, because he's like, no, fuck that. I want to be the guy.
because he's got to work on the patent.
Yeah, when I get the patent, then I'll tell you. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to have
you use it.
a dozen Parkinson companies working on the same stupid idea. How long is that going to take? What a waste of time that is, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I just feel like we are just not smart enough to look through the fog and be like, all right, guys, listen, if we really had our head on straight, we'd all put all these millions of dollars an hour people together in a room, even though it's Merck, Pfizer, whatever.
That's right.
Like, we'd get so much done faster. And you know how we know that? Fucking COVID.
Yeah.
How fast did that shit happen when everybody was playing ball?
We were forced to do it. Yeah.
Right. And, but no one cares about your health of your heart like that. Like, if we did, there wouldn't be heart disease.
Huge changes very quickly. Yeah.
And that's the part that can get frustrating.
I love that so much. Yeah. No,
and that's the part. We have this data. We all saw what happened. We were all front row center for this. Like, we know what happens.
We watched it. When the fences get burned down. And then we went back to sleep, unfortunately. Masks are coming off? Okay, great. So go back to bed.
Yeah. Can I go to bike week now? Is that what that means? Great.
Yeah, right.
Like,
are you telling me they're recording new TV shows now? Who's gonna start uploading new shows?
Yeah. Oh my good Lord.
Oh man, I'd talk to you all night.
Doc, I could talk to you all day, man.
This has been so much fun.
Here, so let's just take that. What can we do to get people in touch with you? What do we want to share? What didn't we touch on?
I'm totally accessible. Believe it or not, I still do all my social media. So when people message me, I'm responding on social media.
Love it.
I'd love for people to follow the podcast, Health Mastery Cafe, Health Mastery Cafe on YouTube, Health Mastery Cafe on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the channels. And then my personal handle is The Good Dr. Dave, the GOODDRDAVE, The Good Dr. Dave. Let's connect and let's keep the dialogue going, folks.
No, man, I love it.
This is so great.
Yeah,
man.
you really are doing a great job of it. And I don't want to speak differently of any of our previous guests, but one thing that you do, I think, really excel at is the marketing side. And I know we as Tom and I might say, you're a typical Gen Xer, just apologizing for everything, right? Like, and you're like,
I don't apologize for shit.
No, he's like, marketing. I know
he
it's
didn't
not
make
like
one your mom joke.
No. But he was like,
drinking from a fire hose from a garden hose.
It was the celebrity. Yeah, it's hilarious. No, it was the celebrity thing. That's what it was. It was like, I know that I don't want to sound elitist. I'm like, no, dude, listen. Like, the reality is that somebody's got to pay.
You want to turn heads, you got to get them where they're looking already. You don't have to. You don't have to snap their neck around. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that is just smart. It's not bad. It's not elitist. Yeah, okay. Little grandma down the street, she's not a celebrity, but you know what? If she listens to a celebrity, then what the? Yeah, obviously.
Who cares? You're casting a bigger net. You're using bigger bait.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been in marketing for like 30 years, and I'm like, people always give marketers a bad name, and I'm like, no, man, like everything you do
is because of them.
From the hardwood floor you have under your feet to
Yeah.
the shower head getting you dry to wet to the shampoo you're using to the cardiologist you see.
Right.
It all comes down to marketing, and some of it's predatory and
Yeah.
some of it's not. But like net, it's got to happen or else nothing happens. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's, and so if you find a way to get people engaged and it's working, then fuck it. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know, like, I mean, 100%. So
Yeah.
cool, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you
is
so
so much
much.
fun,
It
man.
was
Great,
awesome.
Matt, Doc, Tom. This is
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is
Cool, man.
this
Well,
is great. Thank you.
you guys have an awesome weekend, and thanks again, man. Talk to you.
All right. Bye now.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.